Um, Good morning. Sorry, I should do that. Good morning. I had a really horrible thing happen in my house last night, having to do with. I'm not going to say details because some people are like sensitive about this, but there was an insect that laid a whole bunch of eggs inside my house that I found in the middle of the night last night. So I was just pulling out. It was very fun. So made my evening last night. I disrupted.
At least you're not getting lizards in your apartment.
I have so many lizards that live on the front wall of my house. They love to be there because the sun hits there and so forth. So I have so many of them, and I'm amazed that more don't come into my house.
I was one day chasing one around the apartment for like 10 minutes.
Well, I have Smokey in there. I don't want Smokey to. I don't want a lizard that. Yeah. We are looking at, we've been looking at kind of things to help with seasonal support and change. Hi, Teresa. Good morning, or whatever it is where you are. So we've been looking at different ways to support seasonal change. And one of the big ones that we want to be mindful of is changing the changing diet that is going to be coming with the change in it, with the seasonal changes, right? We're going away from having the summer fruits and vegetables in abundance that we've had in the farmers market. There still is a lot of abundance, especially here in Southern California. But you know, variety changes, and we are moving more towards cooked foods, more towards rooty foods, towards just different types of foods. This is typical in the season. It's wonderful. I've been looking forward to it. I've been making soups. Yeah, I'm like so happy to be having soups. Soups are great, and they're a really wonderful way of getting like concentrated nutrition into a person. And they're very grounding and very nourishing. So that change of energy from this upward light, fresh raw fruits and vegetables and steamed and salads and all of that, you know, fresh corn on the cob and all of these aromatics and things that we've been playing with all summer. Now that energy is kind of moving into, yeah, those roots and gourds and sweet starches, concentrated things. And then of course we do have holidays coming up, holiday eating. We have, you know, the extreme amounts of sugar that is hitting many people with Halloween and related things. Good morning, Juliana. Good morning, Marcos. Hi, Shyler. Good morning. Um, uh, so, so we want something to give some support to the digestion as we're moving through these transitions. Um, some people find the changing food to be really wonderful and beneficial. Some people do a lot better with more cooked um, uh, grounding food, and some people do better with more of the lighter fish foods. For those people who don't do well with transitioning to the more cooked foods, more dense, more concentrated foods, for when you're going into a holiday meal, a special meal where there's going to be a higher amount of fats and a higher amount of proteins, and just a higher volume of food, right? We just eat more. Um, and that's also sort of the the seasonal imperative even in Southern California. You know, you want to eat more during this holiday. So with all of that, there's more impact on our digestion. Our digestion is being asked to change from this summer dietary pattern that we've set to a fall and winter dietary pattern, and then looking forward to these things coming up. So what we're going to make today, we're going to look at blending an aromatic bitters blend for digestive support. So and looking at the difference between using aromatics for digestion, how those support the digestion, and specifically bitters, what and how they work in the digestion, and what type of bitters is going to also impact other secondary and tertiary effects of the formula, right? So let's look at both of those things first. So we'll look at aromatics. So the aromatic herbs are the herbs that have the volatile oils, right? These are volatile oil-containing plants. So what are some examples of aromatic plants? Peppermint, yeah. What else? Lavender, yeah. Rosemary. Yeah, you can play too. Yeah. Cumin, ooh, yeah. Cumin is a good one. You get like extra points for cumin because that cloves, yeah. We were just working with cloves yesterday. My first year students are making it their first aid kits, and they made this brilliant wound care treatment. I'll tell you about later. But they were grinding cloves. This whole place smelled so much like cloves yesterday. I thought for sure when I opened up this morning it would be like clove central here. You got rid of it pretty well. But yeah, cloves. And so chamomile, thyme. Yeah. Osha root. There you go. Yes. Wouldn't be a Renee without you doing my clove and osha. That would be so intense. That would be like a pow. Yeah, I'll bet it would be. That would be wild. Yeah. So all of these compounds, these aromatic compounds in plants, have specific effects as they go through the gastrointestinal tract. And it's important to remember that generally these qualities are for most plants that are rich in volatile oils, that are safe to take internally, of course. We're not going to use things that are unsafe to use internally. So there are certain ones that we tend to associate with digestion, and some of them you've named: chamomile, ginger, peppermint. But even when you don't have those, the other aromatics that you've also named, thyme and lavender, osha root, clove, these are also very beneficial for the digestion. So whenever you're feeling the need for aromatic support in the digestion, any kind of aromatic plants that are able to be taken internally is going to be good. If they're smelly, if you crush them and they're aromatic, it's going to be fine. So what do aromatic plants do in the digestion? Largely, we use them as what are called carminatives. Carminative. A carminative is a plant that helps to reduce spasticity, gas, bloating, abdominal distension, farting, burping, all of the things that result from poor digestion, right? If you haven't been able to digest your food, the food stays in the stomach. It's not moving down into the intestinal tract because it hasn't had proper digestion. So as it sits in the stomach, it's fermenting, and that fermentation, the gas formation, is going to press up against the esophageal sphincter, causing heartburn and reflux often, and then you're just going to have the bloating, farting, burping gas. So the aromatic compounds are going to be relieving spasticity of the sphincters, relieving spasticity of the gut wall and the muscles. And so that's going to help with a lot of the cramping and all of that. It's going to help gas to move up and out. To right after taking them, quite often you're going to be able to like burp quite a lot and possibly even fart a lot, right? Because the gas has to go somewhere, right? If it has been formed, it's not going to magically go away. So do be aware of that. But it will stop new gas from being formed, and it's going to help to relieve that. And it is an immediate effect. It's a very, very, very rapid effect when you're using those aromatics. So now some of them can also be warming and stimulating blood flow to the digestion, and so that is also going to improve digestion. It's going to kind of wake up that system. It's important to remember that the digestive process is one of the most energy intensive processes in the body, so it requires a lot of kind of the body being, putting a lot of energy and resources there. If you have limited resources in your body, you're maybe not going to be able to put all of those resources into digestion. It's one of the reasons why stress causes a huge impact on our ability to digest food. Part of that is also because when we are in that stress response, our body is primed to run away from the monster that's attacking us, right? And what did we just say? The digestive system, the digestive process is the most energy intensive process. We don't need to be digesting food when we're trying to run away from a monster. And so we're going to shut down digestion as we're under stress because the body says, we'll do that later. We'll do that when we're relaxed and calm. The parasympathetic dominant state, the safe and calm state, is the rest and digest state, right? That's that's when we're not the fight or flight, it's rest and digest, it's breathe and feed. We're eating, we're chilling. So that's for later. Right now we're going to stop digestion. Well, if you're under stress all the time, you're always, having that later. Later we'll get to the digestion. Later we'll do that. Later. And so we're constantly having this bloating and gas and all of that. So, yes.
Would then, in that case, taking like Nervines be a good way to...
Yes,
okay.
Yes, absolutely. And then if you can get a Nervine that is also an aromatic and even a bitter, like Juliana suggested chamomile, which is a perfect one, right? Because chamomile is aromatic, it's antispasmodic, it is bitter, especially if you make a strong chamomile tea. If you've never made a strong chamomile tea, if your experience with chamomile tea is a Celestial Seasonings tea bag dipped for 5 minutes, you will have your mind blown by making actual chamomile tea in a therapeutic dosage. Use a heaping tablespoon of chamomile blossoms, steep it for half an hour, drink that, and number one, you'll see why people call chamomile a bitter, because it's a very bitter. It'll be very aromatic. It is very sedating. It's very antispasmodic. It's very anti-inflammatory for the gut also. And so we can choose something like chamomile in a formula like this as we're building our formula, particularly if that digestion, those problems with digestion also come with some of those other factors, with the inflammation, with the spasticity, right? So using chamomile as one of our bitters would be really great for that. We may also have problems with, our primary digestive problem is not so much stress. It might be that we have liver impaction. Our liver is overwhelmed by various different things. We eat too many fats, where we have elevated cholesterol. We're taking medications that affect our liver. A lot of medications affect our liver. Our liver has hundreds of different functions that it has during the day, and a lot of things that are insults to our liver. So sometimes the digestive problems that we're having are coming from liver dysfunction, in which case we can choose the bitter base to our aromatic bitters product to be a liver support herb too, right? So we could choose something that is more of a nervine antispasmodic, something that is more of a liver support. It is still going to be bitter, and we'll talk about bitters right now as soon as I answer these questions. Yeah, I know. I don't like it when people are well, I was about to sell you my aromatic bitters. No. No. Yeah. No, you don't need that. Real chamomile tea. Right, passionate herbs, right? Yeah, I know. Every time I make people drink chamomile tea, it is bonkers. Could we just St. John's wort chamomile for nervous system and liver decongestion? Yeah, so St. John's wort is so wonderful. We are talking more about bitters, and I don't generally think of St. John's wort as a bitter liver tonic. Absolutely a liver tonic, one of the best liver tonics, but we want to use a liver tonic that is going to have more of a bitter thing here. I knew what you meant. You didn't have to correct your spelling. Thank you about the new hair. I love it. So first of all, let's talk about the difference between aromatics and bitters, right? So aromatics, antispasmodic, primarily treating the results of poor digestion, right? Whoops, we ate too much, we did whatever, now we're bloaty and farty, so now we're going to take those aromatic compounds, those volatile oil-rich compounds, and we're going to help that. Bitters are different. Bitters we're taking because bitters optimally, if we're able to, and there are some people who can't do this, optimally we're going to take our bitters before the meal, because bitters are going to prep the digestion. They're going to start the digestive process going. They're going to wake up the digestion. They're going to activate the liver. They're going to start secretion of digestive juices, all of the gastric juices, the things that help us to digest food. So what are our gastric juices? Saliva. One of the first things that you'll notice when you have some bitters, let's pass around some bitters. So y'all can get some bitters. What do I have that's bitter? Oh, here's some artichoke tincture. Artichoke leaf. If you grow artichokes, one artichoke leaf, right, because they're so huge. And they're so beautiful, by the way, also. Even if you don't eat artichokes, just grow them because they're very easy to grow, at least in our region. I don't know about y'all where you live. They're one of the most beautiful plants. And then you get artichokes. But also the leaves are some of the best liver medicine. And this is actually one of the bitters that we're going to talk about. So I'm going to pass around. This is a artichoke leaf tincture by itself. Let's see. So liver support, so bitters. Bitters stimulate secretion of gastric juices. So saliva is one of them. When you take a bitters formula, oftentimes you will notice an increase in salivation. That's because that's one of our gastric juices. We produce saliva in order to begin the digestive process, right? Mastication, chewing, crushing our food as we're chewing it, but also mixing it with the saliva, because saliva contains salivary lipase, salivary amylase. These are enzymes that start the digestion of carbohydrates and a little bit of fat right away as you're chewing your food. So you really want saliva as one of your gastric juices. Also increasing secretion of hydrochloric acid in the stomach and waking up the cells, the parietal cells in the stomach. Those are the cells that produce the hydrochloric acid. And so in some people, those cells are weakened. They're not producing enough hydrochloric acid, which is the primary issue with most digestive problems that people are experiencing. It's not enough hydrochloric acid, and most people treat for too much hydrochloric acid, and that causes a dramatic derangement of digestion and has significant impacts in our digestive process. I'm not going to go off on a rant about antacids and all of that, but I could. Suffice to say that we need to digest our food, and to digest our food, we need hydrochloric acid. That being said, there are people who have problems with reflux, with GERD, with esophageal irritation that need to protect themselves. For those people, they can take their bitters after they eat meals. So the food is going to be a bit of a buffer for the bitters. They can still take them because we still want to kind of wake up that digestion, but on an empty stomach, it's going to be too much and it's going to cause more reflux. So if you have reflux, if you have any problems with hyperacidity presentation, after your meals. If you don't have that, you take your bitters before your meals. So that's going to wake up the digestion. It's going to wake up the pancreatic juices. The pancreas secretes digestive juices into the small intestine, and so that's the second part of digestion after the stomach. So we have all of the other digestive enzymes in there. It's going to be activating secretion of bile from the liver, and the bile release helps to emulsify fats. So all of this working together is helping to digest your food. And all of it is started through the taste of bitters over your taste buds. As soon as you taste anything bitter, this whole thing starts to activate. It's amazing. It's an amazing process. And so we can use, and the cool thing is, any bitter thing in the world, if it tastes bitter, it's going to activate this process. Now, we can choose the bitters that we use, as we did with the chamomile, right? We can choose the bitters for their secondary and tertiary effects so that we can fine-tune our formula to be more specific for the person that we need. So here's where we can go in. I do like to use liver tonics, the liver bitters, because everyone needs liver support. Everyone needs liver support. And of course, Juliana, as I'm sure you know, one of the cautions with using St. John's wort is the activation of the cytochrome P450 enzyme pathway that can cause some interaction with medications, and that would limit other people's use. You might not be taking any medications, in which case the St. John's wort is fine for you, or medications that you're taking aren't cleared via that pathway, so the St. John's wort is fine for you. But if you are making it for other people, that could possibly be a caution. Depends entirely on the dosage also. If you're taking it just for the bitters, oftentimes, again, all you need is the bitter taste going over your taste buds, so you're just using a couple of drops, in which case the dosage of the St. John's wort would likely not be problematic and also not be therapeutic, right? It would just be kind of label dressing and some there. But in the absence of any cautions for using St. John's wort, it's such a great liver tonic. It's such a great nervous system tonic too. And it's, for some people, it's just so abundant, it grows everywhere. So, use what you have. But just be aware of that. The other liver tonics do not activate that particular pathway, and so they're not contraindicated for use with other medications. And so it makes them a little bit safer. And they're bitter, and St. John's wort isn't bitter, right? So the bitter herbs that I like, artichoke leaf, we just passed around artichoke leaf, we were talking about this. Artichoke leaf is very, very good liver medicine. It is really good, and it is particularly beneficial when you have elevated blood lipids, when we have elevated cholesterol, elevated triglycerides. Artichoke leaf is really, really phenomenally good for that. Yeah, it is supportive and tonifying. It's a cousin to milk thistle, right? So all of these Asteraceae thistle plants, it's a cousin also to burdock, right? So burdock, artichoke, milk thistle, they're all cousins. They all love to just kind of improve detoxification pathways in the body. And you'll notice taste similarities between all of them too. So we can use artichoke leaf as one of our bitters. Dandelion root, of course, is another great standard bitter. Now it isn't very bitter. It's, although for new herbalists, what constitutes bitter changes dramatically the more bitter you take. I'm seeing nodding heads, right? When you first start out, you're very, very sensitive to that bitter taste because you don't taste it very often. We don't have, in dominant culture, we generally don't drink a lot of or eat a lot of bitter things, except for like coffee and chocolate. Coffee and chocolate are the bitter things, right? But we don't have a lot of bitter food. So herbalists, we're eating bitters all the time. We love bitters, so we're getting more. So we're like, well, that you have people like Renee who regularly drinks ginseng because she's hard ass about it. She just eats the root. She's just bonkers. Yeah, she's way beyond my level of bitter usage. But when you're starting on that, sometimes dandelion root is like as much bitter as you can do, in which case, that's great, that's awesome. You will hear people talk about burdock as being a bitter, and I absolutely do not see that. Bitter is sweet. Burdock is sweet and yummy and delicious, and it is not at all. Blanca, hi. I drink 3 to 4 cups of coffee throughout the day. Yeah, find myself in this situation. Should coffee be replaced with chamomile instead for some time, It's a really good question to ask yourself. Those are 2 entirely different plants, right? And chamomile is so lovely. Coffee has real good benefits. Coffee, really good quality coffee, taken mindfully. If your body is okay with the caffeine, my body isn't okay with caffeine. I can't even do 1 cup of coffee, but that's just my body. And I'm missing some of those benefits that come from drinking really good quality coffee. So if you're good with coffee and you like those effects, great. If you feel like maybe you want to drop back with that, then maybe experiment with chamomile or any of these other plants. It's always fun to play with more plants. I think you should definitely, whatever you decide with the coffee, you should definitely be playing with more plants, is the upshot there. All right, now another one that I want to use that actually is one of my favorites is angelica root. Angelica root. So this is Angelica, Archangelica, Western Angelica. You could use Chinese Angelica, which is Dong Quai. It has a little bit more sweet flavor. It is often treated with sulfur, with sulfites. So you want to be mindful of that when you're getting Dong Quai. If it's a very, very, very pale, beautiful golden to cream color, it's likely treated with sulfites. But the Western Angelica is not. Now, Western Angelica, the thing about bitters that we want to be aware of is that the bitter flavor, the energetic quality of the bitter flavor is what? The thermal quality of bitter flavor is what? Cooling. It is cooling, that's right. Bitters are cooling. So you can tell that energetic quality. If you taste something that's bitter, you know this is a cooling plant. Like sour is always going to be cooling, right? The chemistry of bitter, the chemistry of sour is chemistry of draining and drying heat from the body. So it's going to be drying and it's going to be cooling. Angelica is a warming bitter. It's one of our few warming bitters. So because it has aromatics in it, right? It is an aromatic and a bitter. If you wanted just a single herb, you could just say Angelica root tincture is an aromatic bitter, and I could have made this a much shorter class.
Do they use the Dong applied for like female, like menopause and hormonal regulation?
Yes, and it's not in Chinese herbalism. It's not used for that. Chinese herbalism, Dong Quai is used as a blood tonic. It nourishes the blood. It builds the blood. Since the uterus is so often associated with blood, it is often kind of talked about as a women's herb, but it doesn't really have hormonal effects. It is a blood nourisher, and so it's used irrespective of gender. It's used for people who are just pale blue. They have blue lips. You're like, you need to eat some liver.
I think because I was reading about it for people through menopause that experience hemorrhaging.
Yeah.
And using that to help.
Yeah. Yeah, to build up the blood again. Yes, absolutely. Yes. It's also a blood mover. And so if someone is having very heavy menstrual flow, they'd want to be careful about taking it during that heavy menstrual flow because it's also moving that blood. Yes, yeah. Which is why you'll see the Angelicas often as a little side thing. You could use your Angelica tincture topically as a liniment because Angelicas are used there's a formula called Dictat Jiao, which is also known as iron hand wine. It's a liniment. A liniment is an alcohol extract, generally alcohol, some other things, that's used for martial arts, rubbing into muscles during martial arts for moving the blood. Moving the blood. Blood stagnation in Chinese herbalism is considered to be the underlying cause of pain. And so moving the blood is moving that, breaking up that stagnation, allowing the pain to disperse. And Angelica is one of the primary plants used in Dictat Jiao formulas. Each dojo has like their own, formula for it, but it always has Angelica root in it as a blood mover. So both of them. I am missing an earring. Yes, it's actually in my pocket. I just have one earring in. Let's see. So Angelica is a liver tonic. It's a digestive tonic. It's warming and stimulating, and it's moving blood, and that's going to be particularly good for elders and people with just cold constitutions, people who generally tend to be cold, who generally tend to have low metabolic functioning, and the poor digestion is a result of that, right? It's just everything that their body does is just kind of slow and cold, and we need to warm that up. We'll often see that associated with things like low thyroid function, with recovery from chronic disease or other kind of issues of weakness like that. We need to warm and build the body, and Angelica root is a great one to use for that. Another aromatic bitter that I love using, and you can use by itself, is cardamom. So cardamom tincture just by itself, very bitter, very aromatic. It's gorgeous. You do want to be careful about cardamom. It can very easily overwhelm a formula. So those are our bitters. Our aromatics today are, I've got fennel and ginger and orange peel and cinnamon. So fennel, ginger, orange peel, cinnamon, all of those are standard carminative herbs. They're all herbs that generally most people have in like their kitchen. They're easy to access. You can make a tincture out of one or any of those, oh, and the cardamom also. Out of one or any of those aromatic plants. And instead of the fennel seed, so I have fennel seed here, but you brought up cumin, and it's important to recognize that all of the aromatic seeds that are used in cooking are all some of the best carminatives. And so whatever seeds you have in your kitchen cabinet, caraway, dill, cumin, fennel, anise, star anise, coriander. Coriander doesn't have quite as much just because it is a milder flavor, but it still has that there. Yeah, celery seed, all of those aromatic seeds, really, really, really effective. And you don't even have to make a tincture out of those. You can just take the seeds and eat them. Just take a few cumin seeds. Cumin seeds are really, really good. And most people have cumin seeds in their kitchen. Just, 5 or 6 cumin seeds, just chew them up if you're having problems after a meal, bloating, gas. But you can also make a tincture out of them and have that available so that you can just take a concentrated form and just take a few drops right before your meal, after your meal, however you need it. So let's look at all of these herbs, and we'll bring together a formula, and then we will blend our tincture blend, and y'all can take it home and and then gorge yourself on meals in the name of science so that you can use your new tincture blend.
When you see like aromatic bitters at the store, but it doesn't say what's in it, what generally is it?
It's oftentimes it's something like the Angostura type bitters, the bitters that are used for drink mixing for. They're generally gentian. Almost always they use gentian. Gentian is very traditionally used for that. They can be all sorts of other bitter agents too. A lot of times artichoke leaf is used. But yeah, they're proprietary blends that have been kind of grandfathered in because they're so traditional. They're not required. They can say, you know, it's herbs and spices, right?
Yeah,
Herbs and spices, and you don't know what they are. Yeah, they're able to do that. Yeah, and that's the difference between buying a bitter that is made for bartending versus buying a bitter that's made by an herbalist, because an herbalist is absolutely going to tell you the herbs that are in there. They're going to have a complete breakdown of that. So our liver support, we have artichoke, we have angelica, and we have dandelion. We want to remember with dandelion, it is the root that forms the liver support primarily. The leaf is primarily kidney support and nourishment. It's really nutritive. But if you're wanting liver support specifically, you do want to get the dandelion root. So those are our bitters, our pure bitters. And then we have our aromatics. We have cinnamon, cardamom, orange peel. Oh, and orange peel I also want to talk to you about here, and ginger and fennel. Yeah, so now in these, we also can look at cardamom and orange peel as also being bitters, right? So angelica is also an aromatic. Cardamom and orange peel are also bitter. So there's a lot of overlap in these blends. And where those overlaps occur, whenever you're doing some type of a formulation, where those overlaps occur, those are golden. Those plants are great because that's one plant doing two of the jobs that you need. You know, sometimes you can get a really elegant presentation of a plant that is like, you don't even need to make a formula. For your needs at that moment, that exact plant is a specific plant for you. And all you need is orange peel. And it's beautiful when that happens. It's really, really wonderful. And sometimes you'll question, it's like, do I need to like adjust this? Do I need to adjust the flavor? Do I need to adjust the energetics? Like, is it really kind of this easy? And just sometimes it is. And it's like, oh, yay, this is just so fun. But more often than not, you do need to modify it or adjust it, to change it around, to make it, again, more appropriate, either for you and your personal usage, or if you're making a formula that you're making for a wide range of people, you specifically don't want it to be too detailed, too focused in one type of energy or one type of action. You want it to be broad spectrum. So just depending on what you want your formula to be, that's how you're going to be formulating. Yes, in the name of science, the things we do for science. So let's choose one or two of these liver tonics. We don't need all three of them. So the difference, I think we should do angelica because it is one of those magical both plants. I like artichoke because artichoke is so good with blood lipids. For many people, the issues with eating too many sugars, with eating too many fatty foods, the wrong types of fats, all of that, it just causes a lot of kind of liver stagnation. And so I think the artichoke leaf would be a better one to use than the dandelion. But if you were needing something that was a little bit milder in flavor, then I would start with the dandelion root. But y'all are fine with stronger flavors, so I'm gonna have those be our liver support. All right, and then with the aromatics, I always want cardamom in almost any formula I make. I just love cardamom so much. So I want to keep the cardamom, and same with the orange peel. The orange peel is just so delightful. Plus, it's holidays, and cardamom and orange peel are just kind of holiday-like flavors, right? It's going to be delicious. Just because we're making strong medicine doesn't mean it can't be delicious. So what do you think about the other ones? Ginger, so here we have a stronger energetic pattern, right? Here we have that strong warming effect. We might want that warmth. You know, we might want to get that kind of movement. We might want something that's better for nausea. Maybe whenever if we're taking it because we do have some nausea, you know, before meals or right after meals. So we might want to add that in there. Cinnamon is also warming. Not quite as warming as ginger, and cinnamon also has a little bit of a moistening effect to it, and that's nice because bitters do tend to be drying. Remember, they're draining and drying.
And it goes with the holiday theme.
And it goes with the holiday theme. So we could do cinnamon, cardamom, cinnamon and cardamom and orange peel. What do you folks think about everything?
Good.
Yeah? Ginger fennel, no at all? No? Should we have a little bit of fennel? No.
Do you think this would be a little too warming for some?
So orange peel is cooling. The artichoke is cooling. The angelica is warming. Cinnamon is warming. Cardamom is warming. It is going to be overall a warming formula. Without the ginger, I don't think it'll be too. And of course, we haven't done our parts yet, right? So the parts also makes a difference. So, okay, well, so let's go with this. Let's see if folks, I know you don't have opinions about this. All right, so there's our formula. So artichoke and angelica, cinnamon, cardamom, and orange peel. It's a great formula, really nicely balanced. We can take this long term. It would be just a great digestive liver tonic formula to take long term. But we could also use this specifically for digestive support. So because it is going to be primarily a bitters, we do want to prioritize these plants here. And so I'm going to start, if we start, whenever we're doing formulation, we can kind of start with our head as a default of one part of everything. But we could immediately see, well, no, that's not, I don't want one part of these to, I don't want the amount of these to be equal to the amount of these aromatics. I want a lot more of this. So if I went to 2, I think I even want more than that. I think I want 3 angelica. No, maybe 2 angelica and 3, because angelica, we have the warmth down here, so I'm not relying on that. I really do love artichoke so much. So 3 artichoke and 2 angelica. That feels like a good amount, really solid bitters base. And then if we have 1 part each of these, I'm definitely going to keep the cardamom at 1 because, again, cardamom, especially in a tincture form, it's very easy to overwhelm the formula. I've done that so many times in my love for cardamom. It's very, very strong in a tincture blend. I think that's exactly what I was thinking was 2 of the orange. 2 orange, 1 cardamom, and 1 cinnamon. Cinnamon is the hottest of these, so we want to keep that low. The cinnamon is just alcohol. I do have a cinnamon glyceride.
Yeah, because that would be really good.
Would you go and grab the cinnamon glyceride from the tincture?
Yeah.
Steph, would you do that now? Thank you so much. See what you get for having clever ideas? So we're going to change because Renee had a great idea about making the cinnamon a glyceride. So everything else is a tincture. As a glyceride, it's going to give a little bit of sweetness to it. Yeah, the glycerin in here also will be helpful whenever we're combining herbs together. I think we talked about this in last week's class. Someone brought up herbal contraindications, combinations of herbs that are poor interactions. And I talked about, it was either, if it wasn't last week, it was the week before. I talked about the primary interaction, chemical interaction that's going to happen in herbs is going to be tannins and many other things, because tannins grab onto things, right? They grab onto things and cause them to precipitate down into the bottom. One of the things that blocks tannin grabbiness is glycerin. So whenever we're making a tincture combination and we're putting together herbs, especially if there's herbs that you know are tannin rich and also the things that tannins grab, rich, right? Which are alkaloids and high, and thank you so much. Perfect. I can just pour, that's no problem. So yeah, throwing a little bit of glycerin in there just minimizes that tendency of the tannins to grab onto everything else. So okay, so we're going to do angelica and artichoke. The dandelion we're not. We're going to do cinnamon as the glyceride and cardamom and orange peel. And these are going to go, oh, cool. So, and now we have our ratios. Is everyone happy with these ratios? We've got 3 parts artichoke, 2 parts angelica, 2 parts orange peel, and 1 part each cinnamon and cardamom. I think that sounds very, very nice. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is figure out how much we're going to make. So we have ½ ounce bottles here. So we're going to make 1, 2, 3. We'll make 4 ounces. So we're going to make 4 ounces of tincture. And then we're going to convert that roughly into milliliters, because the math will be easier in milliliters than it will in metric math is always easier than imperial math. Always. Every time. It's easier. So if we estimate, because all we need to do is estimate here, if we estimate that there's 30 milliliters per ounce, it's not exact, but that's close enough, then 4 ounces would be 4 times 30, and that would equal 120. So there's approximately 120 milliliters in 4 ounces. So that's our goal. We're going to be making 120 milliliters of our tincture blend. And that 120 milliliters is going to be made up of these. So we're going to count up our parts. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 parts. 9 is just a funky number to do math with. You can do it. That's fine. We have 9 parts. No, I'm not going to. What I totally want to do right now is to increase 1 other part to make it 10, because 10 is so easy to do the math with. But I'm not going to, because we're going to see that you can do math with 9. You don't have to do 10. We can do hard things, right? We're fine. So we have 9 parts total in our blend. Now we're going to take 120 milliliters. We know that 120 milliliters has 9 parts, right? 9 parts in 120 milliliters. So 1 part is 120 milliliters divided by 9, and that's going to be about 12.
I got 13.33.
Yeah, 13.33. There you go. About 12. 13.33. So 13 milliliters. Yeah, so one part is 13 milliliters. So we're going to have 13 milliliters of cinnamon, and we're going to have 13 milliliters of cardamom, and then we'll have 26 milliliters of orange peel, 26 milliliters of angelica, and 39 milliliters of artichoke. And I'm just going to round those because we do not need to be this precise with our measurements, and trying to measure 13 mils instead of 15 mils in a graduated cylinder is like stupid. Why do that to yourself? So we can just make these 25 and 15, and right? That's fine. And this is 40. That's all fine. That is close enough. The difference of 1 mil or 2 milliliters, there are 6 milliliters in 1 teaspoon. So we're doing 1/6 of a teaspoon in a 4-ounce bottle. It's just not that much to even bother with. All right, so now we have our formula, and now we can blend. Now I make all of my tinctures individually so that I can do this, just like when we make a tea blend together, right? I have my herbs and we blend them together. I have my herbal apothecary of the dried herbs. I have my tincture apothecary of the single tinctures. You can make your tinctures as combinations. You could take this and blend the herbs together and then tincture them. Right? If you want to do that, you could even just go through these and just do cinnamon, cardamom, and orange peel, because you probably have those in your kitchen. You can just chop those up, put them into a jar, and then throw alcohol on them, and you could make a good aromatic bitters tincture. Yeah.
Would you put the glycerin in at the beginning as you're tincturing?
Optimally, you want to put it in at the beginning. If you're tincturing something that has tannins in it, you want to put the glycerin in at the beginning, because it's blocking the tannins. if you have a tincture, it doesn't necessarily have a lot of tannins, but you're about to combine them together. Everything has been tinctured and now you're going to blend them. You can put the glycerin in then, because that's when you're going to have the potential interactions. Right now you have the two herbs coming together, and now even though glycerin maybe wasn't needed before, or maybe wasn't used before because it was like, nah, I just have my raspberry leaf, right? My raspberry leaf tincture full of tannins, so full of tannins. My raspberry leaf tincture was just by itself fine, but now you're doing raspberry leaf with blue lotus, and now it's like, no, 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 they are not going to be happy together. You can put the glycerin in right there. You can either just pour some glycerin in as you're bringing them together, or you could like throw some rose glyceride in there, right? Use something that's made in glycerin. Yeah. Okay.
What about like, so with my cinnamon, I make it alcohol tincture, but also put glycerin in it.
Yeah.
So at that point, you don't really have to worry about when you mix it because the tannins are already.
And that's why quite often I will, in a plant that has a lot of tannins in it, like my raspberry, I will often put glycerin in it, as Renee said, just because I'm likely to be blending it. I already know it has tannins, and so I don't want to have to add it in every time. I'm just going to throw it in there. And especially if you're doing something like cinnamon, it's so tasty. It just transforms it into just a delicious, delicious thing.
So you add it when you're starting your tincture?
When you're starting your tincture, if the tincture has tannins in it. Yes, or if you just want to, or if you just want to, yeah, if you just want to protect it.
Or can you add it when you strain out your tincture out of the glycerin then?
You can, but you had the extraction, you had that time was extracting, and some of the chemical reactions already happened during that. So if you're wanting to halt those chemical reactions early on, you'd want to throw the glycerin in there early on. And sometimes that isn't necessary until it combines. It just kind of depends on how you're using it and why you're using it. Okay. I'm sorry about the math. I know. Does the orange peel? I'm keen to hear the second part of that question, Teresa. So we're going to combine this together. So I've got my graduated cylinder here. And we're going to do 40, got my bigger graduated cylinder here. We're going to do 40 milliliters of artichoke leaf. So you could combine these all together and make a tincture with the combined herbs. Absolutely, you can do that. It's going to be much easier. And if you're relatively new at medicine making, and all you want is a digestive blend, then heck yeah, do that. Just grab them, throw them in. You don't even have to weigh them out. You just throw them in a jar and cover them with vodka, and you'll be fine. You don't even have to worry about the alcohol percentage of each one, right? They're all bitter. They're all going to extract. It's going to be fine. But if you wanted to make the best medicine that you can possibly make, you're going to want to extract each individual herb at the specific level, the concentration of alcohol, the dilution with water that each specific plant has. So it's just two different ways of approaching the job. So there's our artichoke leaf, and then we have angelica. We have 25 mils. I'm going to go to the smaller graduated cylinder. 25 mils each of angelica. Does anyone have any questions about bitters or digestion or aromatics or anything?
Is there a book or anything that you recommend that with tinctures that just kind of lists the alcohol to water content for different herbs?
So I actually have on my website, I have a list of books that list that, because most of the books do not. The vast majority of books do not. There's a few of them. I also do have a link to a Materia Medica that has that. You can also, that was the angelica. Now I'm doing the orange peel. One of the best resources. No. Yes, I did that a little bit over here. it's worthwhile to stop for a moment and talk about the this site. This is the site for the Southwest School of Botanical Medicine, which was started in the 70s by Michael Moore. And Michael Moore was the teacher to most of the best herbalists in the world. Studied with Michael Moore at one time. He was a sassy, irascible, grumpy old man, very political, very opinionated, very loud, a brilliant herbalist. And as he was teaching, he had a residential program, the best residential herb program around. He posted on his website all of his textbooks that he used in teaching. He said, "Here you go. I'm teaching my students, but here, this is the information that I use. You know, don't just take it and change it. This is my intellectual information, but you can have that." He had that going while he was alive, while he was teaching. He was doing that. Donna Chesney, his widow, has continued the site after his death. He died, gosh, it's been about 10 years or so now, 15 years. It's been a while since he passed away. But she kept his site, and they've been adding to it. And all of his students have been bringing resources together, with some working really, really hard. And they have rebuilt this site, and they just, about 2 weeks ago, released it with all of this archived information, all of this. There's so much information that Michael gave to the world. And he was so generous. And so they've taken that spirit that Michael had of just sharing information freely and have just transformed this site. So go onto the site, because it will have all of the medicine making, get a couple of reams of paper if you like to print things out, and just print it all out or just save everything. So much information on that site, more information that you could ever use. If you just went to that site, you could train yourself to be an herbalist, and an excellent herbalist at that, one of the finest herbalists. So there you go. I know, well, his website, it was kind of down and funky for a while because they were in the background doing all of this. So yeah, and nothing had been kind of going with it. It was just kind of always there. Oh, I'm so eager for you to see it now, because it's amazing. They have all of these audio clips I got from him. I used to go to conferences where he would speak and just sit at his, I never got to study with him at his school, but I would just go and sit and listen to him, because it was like, oh my God. And I got a collection. I paid a huge amount of money to get this collection of audio clips from in the field. He would take his students out into the field, and they would just be talking about this plant in the field, and there would be like 20 minutes on Angelica, because there's Angelica there. Oh, cute puppy. They have all of those clips there. You can listen to Michael in the field talking about so many plants. There's a huge amount of plants there, and he'll go off on tangents. He'll be talking about all sorts of different things, environmental things and political things, and just all over the place. Lovely, so good, it's so wonderful. Anyway, I'm really eager for you to, back to our class. We have our cardamom, and no, we have our artichoke, and we have our angelica. I forgot what I'm doing, but I know how much tincture I have in my beaker, and so I can do math and figure out where I stopped, unless y'all can remember where what the last thing that I added in here. It was the orange peel. Good, thank you. Right, because I did the 2 parts, and now I'm doing the 1 parts. Okay, so cinnamon glycerite. We're going to add 15 milliliters of our cinnamon glycerite. Look at the color of this cinnamon. When you tincture it and when you make any extracts, it turns in this beautiful, deep rust red color. It's a gorgeous. Here you can sort of see it a little bit easier, maybe as can you see that beautiful red color? Yeah, that's lovely. Okay, so that's 15 mils of cinnamon glycerite, and then 15 mils of cardamom. And that will be our blend. Where's it, my 15? Where's my 15? All right, so there is our tincture blend. Oh, it does. Oh, yes. That is very, very nice. All right, I'm going to do a little pipette. And draw some up and pass it around to do a final taste before we pour it. Ooh. Yes. So, an important thing about your bitters. Oh, that's nice. They need to be bitter. Got to be bitter. We have the cinnamon glyceride in there. That was such a great idea. Because it just rounded out really nicely. It's definitely bitter, but all those aromatics make it very, very, very delicious. I think that is just beautiful.
They all come through at kind of different times.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good.
Yeah. You happy? Do we need any adjustments? No? All right. All right, there's our formula. So we can take, since this is a formula that is both an aromatic and a bitter, we can use this either before meals to wake up the digestion, get the digestive process started, right? And that is the best usage unless, again, you have a reflux or any kind of gastric irritation where you don't want to be stimulating the hydrochloric acid on an empty stomach. Lemon peel absolutely could be used. Any citrus peel that you have could absolutely be used instead of orange. And then you can also have it after meals if you forgot to take it before your meal. Yeah, or at any time you have, gassy cramping, nausea type situation. If you're taking it specifically for the bitters, the dosage can be pretty small. Again, you just need that bitter flavor going over the taste buds. If you're looking for the carminative effects, or if you're looking for the liver supportive effects, you're going to want to bump that dosage up. Right, so you can take it in just a little bit for the digestive support, for the bitter support. But if you really want that higher dosage, you are going to want to take, probably 20 to 30 drops before your meals, and that will be generally a good dosage once or twice a day, depending on your level of need, right? Why you're taking it, how your liver is compared to my liver, compared to everyone else's liver, right? So, so there you go. Infinitely variable. If you don't have one of the ingredients, you can just substitute something else or throw it away. You can have a single of one of those constituents. You can just nibble on things. If you want an aromatic bitter, the best and simplest aromatic bitter is citrus peel. Teresa, you can use lemon peel or orange peel. You just get an orange and you take a little bit of the peel and you eat that peel before your meals. It's aromatic and it's bitter, and it works really, really well as an aromatic digest. So if you're kind of wondering if bitters would be beneficial for you, that's a really good way to try it out before embarking on this whole thing, right? See if using an aromatic bitter is going to improve your digestion for a few days before your meals. Optimally, about 10 to 15 minutes before your meals, you'd eat a piece of orange peel about the size of your fingernail, right? Again, doesn't need to be a lot. You need to be chewing it. It needs to cross over your taste buds, and you want the zest in there because that's where the aromatics are. That's where the volatile oils are.
Should you try to get the pith off, like say you're drying your own orange or lemon peel, or does it matter if the pith is on there and dries?
I love having the pith on there. Okay. So, well, I love having the pith on there if I'm eating it. Yeah. Because the pith has a high amount of, there's compounds called hesperidin and rutin in the pith that are flavonoids that are really strengthening to vascular walls and really, really, really strong anti-inflammatory and tissue stabilizing compounds. And that's in that pith part. That's also, people will, when it cooks, well, I say, ew, the pith is bitter, and we want to pull that off because all we want are those aromatics, right? They're just like for the zest. The zest folks are always bad-mouthing the pith, but the pith is bitter, and it's also nutritive, deeply nutritive. Flavonoids are some of the most important plant compounds. So yeah, with the pith. And especially if you're eating it. Yeah, get like a big pithy, get a pomelo, right? Get all the pith there. How much of the formula per dose to use? So again, oh, I think I just answered that. Yeah, about five drops or so if you're just looking for that bitter effect. 20 to 30 drops before your meals, optimally 10 or 15 minutes before your meals. But so often what happens is you sit down to eat your meal and you realize, oops, 10 minutes ago, I should have had that bitters. That would have been really good to remember this now, and I don't want to sit here for 10 minutes waiting for that to go ahead and take it right before your meal, right? There's optimal and there's, oh, well, this is still pretty good, right? And that classifies as, oh, well, this is still pretty good. So yeah, go ahead and have it right then. But play around with that. The nice thing about using bitters is that the effects are immediate and generally within a few days, optimally, I mean, often, not optimally, often in the same day, sometimes even in the same meal, you're going to see dramatic effects on digestion, especially if that is the primary thing that your body wants. It's like all it's been waiting for is something to wake up those parietal cells and get that hydrochloric acid going and get those, right? You can see right away the effects. And the nice thing about using bitters, and I'll end with this, is that when we're using bitters to support digestion, we are repairing digestive function. We're repairing broken digestive function. This is how digestion is supposed to happen. The parietal cells are supposed to secrete hydrochloric acid that is supposed to break down proteins in the stomach. It's supposed to move through. We're supposed to have an abundance of all of these gastric juices. But dominant culture pathologizes juices of any sort. Anything that your body is secreting is going to be gross, and so we generally tend to demonize those things. So I'm here to end the demonization of our body's juices. All right, so one time you made something for when you weren't feeling well that had lemon. That's so funny. Passionate herbs, I was just thinking about that recipe because yes, 100%, that's one of my favorite cold and flu recipes, is that lemon peel, garlic, and honey. Also some ginger and a little pinch of cayenne pepper. Yeah, chopped together, it's so good. Yeah, it's about time for us to start making that because the lemons are coming into season, and we're gonna have a need for those. So make that so that you have it. So when you get a cold or a flu, past passionate herbs will have made that for future passionate herbs who get sick and then doesn't want to make something, and will go into the refrigerator and there's a little jar of the lemon, ginger, cayenne, garlic from past passionate herbs, and you can say, thank you, past me, for making this and loving me so much to have it ready, right? So I'm sure there's a video on it, Teresa. I know that there is. I'll go and I don't know, I was going to say, I'll go and tag you. I can't do that. Whatever, I think I'm on Facebook with you. But yeah, go check in there. If not on YouTube, I know it's in the videos on the Facebook page, on the Green Wisdom Facebook page. I just didn't want to transfer over all of those videos over there. There's so many of them. So it's either there or here, but you should be able to find it. All right, there you go. Have fun with your bitters. Let me know how your digestion likes them, and I will see you next week. Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.